Good morning, everyone. I've never had walk-on music before, so that was really exciting for me. It's great to be here with you all, and thank you, Chair Louie, for the invitation and also the interest in Rotary's regional leaders and structure. And I am going to share my screen, if that's quite all right. Let's see how that goes. Does that work? Okay. Yes. Perfect. So I want to start just by sharing a little bit about who I am and what my role is at Rotary. And as you heard in my introduction, I've been working for Rotary for the past 6 years. My team is based out of our headquarters in Evanston, Illinois, and supports a group of Rotary leaders called the Regional Leaders, who work with groups of districts to enhance their membership, fundraising, and public image goals. And while we have some Rotaractors serving in the volunteer group I support, my work with members of Rotaract clubs is relatively limited. So I'm really looking forward to being with this group, and I imagine that we will both be able to learn from one another. I also mention this because I am sure this group will have some excellent questions about Rotaract policy, structure, and MDI support, which may be beyond my ability to answer. While my colleagues on the Rotaract team were unable to make it this evening, they did provide me with some high-level information, and I will leave you with their email addresses at the end so that you can bring any burning questions to their attention. Okay. I'll start with an overview of Rotary staff. As I mentioned, I work out of our Evanston offices, which are called One Rotary Center, and have been the headquarters of Rotary International since 1987. Evanston is a city just north of Chicago in the Midwest region of the US, and Chicago is also where Rotary was founded back in 1905. So our roots in the area really do run deep. One Rotary Center is also our largest staff office, with roughly 560 staff members working from our Evanston headquarters, supporting our members as they work to make the world a better place. But our Evanston staff also really does reflect our membership's global presence. About 1/4 of staff were born outside the United States, hailing from more than 40 countries. Another 1/4 of staff has lived outside the US for 6 months or more in over 70 countries. And more than half of staff in Evanston reads, writes, or speaks a language other than English. Our Rotary headquarters are also in more typical times a great place to host visitors from all over the world. We give tours and have a visitor center where guests can come and spend some time learning more about Rotary, its history, and its impact on the world today. We typically have tours running almost every day that we're in the office, and I really do encourage you, if you ever find yourself in the area around Chicago, to come and visit us. In addition to World Headquarters in Evanston, the Secretariat, which is what we refer to our staff team as, supports Rotary members through 6 international offices. Our first international office opened in Zurich, Switzerland in 1925. The others are located in Sao Paulo, Brazil, New Delhi, India, Seoul, South Korea, Tokyo, Japan, and Parramatta, which is near Sydney in Australia. There are approximately 250 employees total in these offices, and we also have a back office that provides some customer service support as well as IT support located in Pune, India. Now, a majority of support to MDIOs comes directly from our staff in Evanston, although it's always encouraged for MDIO leaders to introduce themselves and build a relationship to their local RI International office, as some of you may have already done. So for this region, that would be the Korea, Japan, and South Pacific and Philippines offices. Their contact information is found up here on the screen. Support to MDIOs mostly consists of administrative support, which is provided by our Rotaract team, again, out of Evanston. They handle functions such as MDIO formation, adding and removing districts, and terminations. Our Rotaract team is also responsible for sending important messages to MDIO leadership to disseminate to their member districts. This information can include anything from announcing that DRRs can apply to participate in International Assembly, to communicating important policy updates related to Rotaract, and I know there have been many of those in the recent years. RI also just completed a research project on MDIOs in order to improve service to these organizations. But since all MDIOs are relatively different in how they are formed and organized, that's been one of the challenges, being able to identify resources and modes of support which will be beneficial and helpful to all organizations. But one of the things in the works is offering MDIOs a learning topic through our Learning Center, which is an interactive platform which would better allow organizations to share resources and learn from one another. And then a longer term goal is to provide some self-service reports to MDIOs. As an MDIO and Rotaract member, your staff support team is reachable at rotaract@rotary.org. They will be your primary point of contact for most matters, and I will also have their email address again at the end, but relatively easy one to remember. Okay, with that, I'm going to jump into a discussion of the Rotary Zone structure to begin building out the picture of Rotary's volunteer structure in the field. Before I get to the zones, I think it's helpful to cover the structure around clubs and districts. Rotary members, Rotarians, join individual Rotary clubs. These clubs are members of Rotary International. They organize themselves into districts. I have here on the screen some membership figures as of 31 May. Rotary's year start figures are frozen for 1 July, a process which takes a few weeks to complete. So I'm using the 31 May figures while we wait for the 1 July figures to be finalized and available. As of 31 May, we had roughly 1,199,793 members in 36,821 Rotary clubs. In Rotaract, we had roughly 218,827 members organized into 10,113 clubs globally. You can also see the percentage of women in both Rotary and Rotaract here on the screen. Again, the Rotary clubs are further organized into districts, and there are 521 districts globally. These districts are organized into zones, primarily for the purpose of electing members to the board. A Rotary zone is an official term defined in RI bylaws, and it reads, "The world shall be divided into 34 zones that are approximately equal in number of Rotarians as determined by the board. Each zone shall nominate a director from its club's membership every 4th year according to a schedule established by the board." So again, the primary purpose of the zones is really to elect RI directors from its membership. But over time, Rotarians have found it useful to use the zone structure to organize other activities or events. So, for example, the Rotary Institutes tend to be organized per the zone structure. Zone structure is also used to host various training events for leaders such as district governors, district committee chairs, the regional leaders who we'll be talking about in a second, and their teams. And they've also been used to conduct service projects, run larger scale public image campaigns, and so much more. Some zones operate their own websites to share important information on local happenings among clubs in the districts and within the zones. Others will sometimes have some zone-wide communications to better facilitate communication between their various member districts. Now, I know this MDIO draws from a wide array of zones, and one resource that I really like when thinking about the Rotary zones so that they're a little bit less abstract are these maps that are available on Rotary's website. If you search Rotary zone structure on My Rotary, you can download maps for all 34 zones and get a better sense of where your fellow MDIO members hail from. And now I will turn to a subject that is near and dear to my heart, the regional leader groups. These are the Rotarian leaders that I and my team support, and ones with whom you as Rotaract leaders may have ample opportunities to collaborate. So when I talk about regional leaders, I'm really speaking about 5 groups of volunteer leadership. Those are the Regional Rotary Foundation Coordinators, Rotary Coordinators, Rotary Public Image Coordinators, Endowment Major Gifts Advisors, and End Polio Now Coordinators. And I have also listed the acronyms by which they are colloquially known up here on the screen because it can be quite a mouthful to say Regional Rotary Foundation Coordinator multiple times in a 20-minute presentation. So I may revert to using the acronyms, and I hope that this is good enough clarification, but please do feel free to let me know if that becomes problematic. So each of the 34 zones has at least one regional leader team that is assigned to the districts within the zone section, or part of the zone. Each regional leader team consists of all 5 of those regional leader groups. These 39 regions are determined by the RI board and the Rotary Foundation trustees to meet linguistic, geographic, membership, and fundraising needs. The regional leader regions coexist with the zone structure, though, as you can tell from the difference in number, do not always directly overlap with it. While regional leaders may organize trainings or events specific to the districts in their region or create regional communications, the regional leader structure is relatively confined to this group of Rotary leaders. And many of our regional leaders, for that reason, since it is not always applicable for, say, a district governor or a district committee chair to know which quote unquote region they belong to, will defer to using the either full or part of the zones that they represent when they discuss the territories with which they work. So I say all of this because there's sometimes, I think, a little bit of confusion in the field around what the regions are, how they either align with or differ from the zones. And ultimately, they've been a very helpful way to both designate districts to the regional leader teams in a manner that makes them as effective as possible in their work, but also on an administrative end to capture and describe these groups of districts that the regional leaders support. Regional leaders' real role is to work through districts to connect Rotarians with resources that support Rotary's goals and deepen its impact in communities locally and around the world. They also serve as trainers and facilitators at seminars, district trainings, and other events where asked. Their primary audiences are the district governor line and any of the district committees which overlap with their functional areas of expertise. In this way, they serve as an integral link between Rotary International and our clubs and members. Regional leaders are either appointed by the RI president or the Rotary Foundation trustee chair following a recommendation process. And they typically, though not always, serve a 3-year term. The regional leader team is designed to be just that, a team. Members of the team collaborate with one another to provide holistic support to their districts. They operate under the leadership of their RI director and with the support of an assigned foundation trustee. Our RFCs, RCs, and RPICs conduct their roles with the additional help of a team of assistant coordinators whom they select in consultation with senior leaders in the region. The EMGAs and EPNCs do not work with assistant coordinators. Okay, so here is an overview of what each of the roles work on. Our RFCs help members fully participate in their foundation to meet their service and fundraising goals. They encourage Rotarians to support Polio Plus, Rotary's highest priority program, and they do that in collaboration with the EPNCs, who we'll speak about in a moment. RFCs also support clubs and districts in their fundraising, especially for Rotary's annual fund, and they educate clubs and districts about Rotary grants to help more members get involved in projects. They also encourage clubs and districts to stay connected to Rotary alumni, those who have gone through or benefited from a program of Rotary, so that they can continue to have the opportunity to share the impact of Rotary in their lives and can get involved with the organization through service if they wish to give back in that way. Rotary coordinators, and now this is the group that I specifically work with. They work with districts and clubs to enhance the membership experience. So they are always encouraging innovative strategies for attracting and engaging members. They support districts and new club development efforts, and they help districts and clubs develop and implement strategic plans to reach their goals. As our organization continues to explore ways in which our clubs can better meet the interests, needs, and lifestyles of current and prospective members at this particular moment in time, RCs have really been vocal champions of the many options for flexibility in club meeting, club format, and membership types. Our Rotary Public Image Coordinators are our storytelling expert. They help us tell Rotary's story. They share Rotary's regional impact with the media and their communities, and they equip district leaders to do the same. They are also experts on Rotary's online public image resources and our brand guidelines. They help us present a cohesive image of our organization to boost awareness among the public. They also advise on how to implement and regionalize Rotary's public image campaigns, such as the People of Action campaign, and they are a key support to publicize the role of Rotary in polio eradication. Endowment Major Gifts Advisors increase Rotarians' participation in major gifts fundraising in the endowment. They are a bit different than the other groups who focus their work on supporting district leaders. The EMGAs really focus most of their work on one-to-one engagement with current and prospective donors. So they have less of a heavy emphasis on training or consulting at the district level. They do develop personalized plans for identifying, cultivating, and soliciting major gifts. They promote those giving opportunities with Rotarians as well as people outside of Rotary. And they facilitate events that recognize and encourage current and new donors. They do work with district leaders to help them identify major gift strategies and prospective donors in the district. And then our End Polio Now coordinators provide leadership and foster awareness, advocacy, and financial support to achieve the certification of polio eradication. They help us achieve our giving goals for polio and advocate for government support for polio eradication through appropriate advocacy strategies. They help educate and keep polio eradication top of mind for both Rotary members as well as within their local communities. My team works with the RFCs, RCs, RPICs, and EMGAs, while the EPNCs are managed by our colleagues in polio and philanthropy. Now, as I mentioned, we do have some Rotaractors active on the regional teams, and we've been seeing this number grow year over year. Regional leaders are encouraged to consider appointing qualified Rotaractors as assistant coordinators to support them in their functional areas and to better foster collaboration between Rotary and Rotaract. We currently have 24 Rotaractors and dual members on the regional leader teams in 21-22, including, of course, Assistant Rotary Coordinator and MDIO Chair, Louis. And I think this is, has been a really great evolution to see, since Rotary and Rotaract leaders are encouraged to work together. Having Rotaract representation on the regional team is one way to really bring that collaboration to life at all levels of the organization, and also to make sure that the perspectives, interests, and goals of Rotaractors are included when the regional leaders are working with districts on their goals. Perhaps during the Q&A, I can put Louis on the spot and he can share a bit about his experience joining the Rotary Coordinator team in his region. Also, until recently, the RFCs, RCs, and EMGAs were all required to be past district governors. However, a board decision taken last Rotary year removed the PDG requirement and will now allow recommendations of qualified candidates with functional expertise and either experience as a past district governor or strong relationships within the region. So this opens up the possibility of having Rotaractors serve in those leadership roles if they are nominated and then selected. Now let's get into collaboration. Regional leaders are encouraged to collaborate with Rotaract leaders in their area. And when I am approached by Rotary coordinators who are interested in better engaging with Rotaractors, one of the very first recommendations I make is to determine whether there is an active MDIO serving districts in their region, and if so, to connect with the MDIO leadership to better understand how their work might align with or reinforce the projects and priorities the MDIO is accomplishing. I'm going to address a few specific opportunities for collaboration, but would like to give 2 disclaimers as I get started. First, this overview is not exhaustive. The best way to understand the full potential of your collaboration with the regional leader team is to make that connection with the Rotary leaders to see how you can be working together. And the second disclaimer I'll give is that I may phrase some things as regional leaders can support Rotaractors with X, Y, or Z, or Rotaract can help regional leaders with A, B, or C, but almost all of these areas can be reciprocal. As a younger professional myself, I fully believe that knowledge sharing and skill building is not a one-way flow. I am blown away by the talent that I see in our regional leader group, and I have every confidence that you as Rotaract leaders have incredible skills and talents to share with Rotarian leadership as well. And with that, I'll dive into some of these opportunities for collaboration. First, the RFCs can include Rotaractors in the audiences with which they discuss global grant participation in advance of Rotaractors being eligible to serve as the international or host sponsors of global grants, provided they have previously partnered with a Rotary Club on a global grant starting 1 July 2022. They can also be champions for Rotaractors as valued partners on service projects that Rotary clubs and districts are conducting, or vice versa. Rotary coordinators encourage clubs to invite Rotaractors as members when they are ready to join Rotary. They promote dual membership for those who wish to join a Rotary club while retaining their Rotaract affiliation. And they educate on opportunities for new club creation if Rotaractors are interested in joining Rotary, but are looking for a club experience not yet offered in their area. And when approached by a district interested in creating a new club, they can also serve as advocates to make sure that local Rotaractors are included in those discussions and their perspectives and preferences are being acknowledged and considered as new clubs are forming. RCs have been really interested in hearing from Rotaractors on what they would be looking for in a club experience, and also better understanding any potential existing barriers to Rotary membership, which Rotaractors are currently identifying. Again, I work with the Rotary coordinators, and so it is the group that I see the most of, and I have seen an incredibly sharp growth curve in the amount of collaboration between RCs and Rotaract leaders over the past 2 or 3 years, and I think that it's really driven to some very positive results within the districts. Rotary public image coordinators can support Rotaractors on how to best tell their story to enhance public image in their area in order to attract new members, sponsors, and volunteers to Rotaract clubs and projects. They can provide any necessary training on brand or PI related materials and include the powerful work of local Rotaract clubs in their media outreach. But this is, again, certainly not a one-way relationship, as our RPICs are also interested in tapping into the communications and story expertise that Rotaractors have to share. End Polio Now coordinators can encourage Rotaractors to participate in our efforts to eradicate polio by holding fundraisers. And in turn, Rotaractors can play a valuable role in World Polio Day plans or World Immunization Week activities. And because of their focus on major giving, the EMGAs work mostly with individual donors, but some have collaborated with Rotaractors who have also been global grant scholars or otherwise benefited from a foundation program to help share the impact of giving. And as I mentioned, regional leaders do have a strong focus on training and speaking, and we encourage them to reach out to interested Rotaractors to collaborate on events and invite them as participants and speakers. District or regional meetings are one opportunity for Rotaractors to strengthen connections to Rotary. And as with basically all of these avenues of collaboration, they flow both ways. You could certainly reach out to the regional leaders in your area for any Rotaract events you're planning to see if they would like to be involved as speakers or educators on the foundation, effective membership development strategies, and enrichment strategies, or public image and media relations. Okay. And I will emphasize again that you as Rotaract regional leaders and MDIO leadership are certainly encouraged to take that first step, reaching out to leadership within Rotary. Rotaractors and Rotaract clubs are an integral part of our membership. The partnership between Rotarians and Rotaractors will continue to be a cornerstone of how our organization builds innovative solutions to our day's most pressing problems. And to do that, our Rotary leaders need to hear from you and your peers on what opportunities you see in your community and how you plan to take action. MDIOs can educate the regional leaders that overlap with their region on their member districts and what kind of support the MDIO is offering to Rotaract in their region. If you are looking to connect with a regional leader in your area, my first suggestion would be to review your zone website, as many share the regional leaders' names and contact information there. For privacy reasons, we are unable to publicly publish regional leader contact information on our website. So if your zone does not have a website or does not share regional leader information on the website and you would like to get in touch, please reach out to one of the program mailboxes listed above. They are specific to each of the 4 programs that my team works with. You are also more than welcome to contact Rotaract at rotary.org, and they would have no problem getting you in touch with my team for the correct contact. And that is all that I have for today. But I believe that we're going to open up the floor to a little bit of Q&A.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Nora, for introducing us to the Rotary Regional Structures. It's good to know that there are Rotarian leaders who can work with our MDIO leaders in supporting the growth and development of Rotaract in our region. And we will actually have the Regional Rotary Public Image Coordinator for Zone 10B and C as our speaker later, and also the RI Directors of Zones 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 as our speaker for tomorrow. So, yeah.
That's wonderful. The collaboration is already happening.
Yes.
Thank you, Laura. So maybe it's time for Q&A. For the audience, if you have questions, please drop them in the Zoom chat box. Or if you want to verbally address your question or share your thoughts, you may use the raise hand function, and we will acknowledge you before you unmute and speak. I invite questions from the floor, but I would like to take the privilege maybe to ask the first question. Once again, thank you, Laura, for sharing all the insights with us. I think, especially for as a IPDRR, I think it's very useful for the district leaders to understand more about, the regional structure and the connections. So I remember over your presentation, you highlight some opportunities where we can get connected with the regional Rotary leaders. May I know if the Rotaract leaders are encouraged or are they possible to join the Zone Institute or some other regional trainings offered by the Rotary?
That's a great question. So Zone Institutes are relatively autonomous in that they're organized regionally. And so the way that each Zone Institute organizes itself and the participants invited to those meetings tends to be differs region to region. So that would unfortunately not be a question that Rotary staff would be able to answer. That said, I do know that there are many regional trainings and meetings that I see happening in the field organized by the regional leaders where Rotaract leadership is absolutely invited and given a very prominent seat at the table. I'm working with our RC who supports French-speaking Africa right now. She's having a meeting with the assistant governors, district membership chairs, and district Rotaract representatives in the coming weeks. And so I think that the ability to open conversation up between Rotary leaders and Rotaract leaders is absolutely there and happening. And where those particular events take place can vary region to region, but that is one of the ways that we've been seeing some of this collaboration take off.
Thank you, Laura. We should be taking the initiative and be proactive in that space, maybe. I see our chair Louis has raised hand. Would you like to address? Would you like to raise a question?
Yeah, I'll just add on the sharing of Nora because currently, as you mentioned, I'm the Assistant Rotary Coordinator for Zone 10A, which covers the Philippines. And I fortunately been able to join in the zone meetings in our country. But I agree that it would really start with the regional leaders having understanding or know what Rotaract is doing in the region. I'm actually grateful because it's actually PDRR Oliver who's currently present here right now who introduced the regional leaders. Back then, I was still an chair-elect of the Philippines MDIO. And then I got interested on the regional leaders. I really looked up resources and RI. And then I started to identify who these people are in the zone. And then when I became an MDIO chair, what I did is to invite them first as speakers in our DRR's training. And then eventually the collaboration prospered from there. They started to invite the MDIO in all their initiatives. That's why last year we had a lot of initiatives in terms of branding, in terms of partnership and promoting End Polio. And what's good also is when they create reports that they submit to Rotary International, they include Rotaract data. And then eventually, as a product of that partnership, one of the Rotary coordinator asked me if I can be part of his team as assistant Rotary coordinator, which I gladly accepted. Because it's really high time that Rotary, especially with Elevate Rotaract, that there are more of us represented in the decision making and ideation table. And this is the good opportunity for us. So Zone 10A is just one of the zones in our covered region. So eventually, I recommend, especially to our DRRs right now, if you can find opportunities to know who these regional leaders are in your zone and introduce what your district is doing and tap them for support. And then eventually, when they realize that the collaboration is really good, they might invite you as well to become part of the team in the zone. And it's really good because Rotaractors in the Philippines got first-hand information of what they're planning in the zone, and we can easily suggest. Like during our meetings, they asked me, "Oh, we want to attract more young people into Rotary. So what can we do? What are your ideas?" And then I tell them our experiences, so they get first-hand knowledge and experience from us. So it's really important that we put ourselves in that leadership positions.
Thank you, Chair Louis. Let me see if there's other questions.
Maybe I'll ask the second one. Yeah. Are the regional leaders in charge of the zone institutes? And if yes, is it possible or encouraged that regional Rotaract leaders participate in zone institute as well?
The regional leaders are not in charge of the institutes. Most institutes have conveners, or all institutes have conveners, but they are not the regional leaders. The regional leaders are involved in the GETS, the Governor's Elect Training Seminar, as well as the Governor Nominee Training Seminar as trainers, but they are not the ones who organize the zone institutes.
Thanks again, Laura. Oh, if our floor doesn't have any questions right now, maybe I can ask another one because I'm very interested personally. So, Laura, as you mentioned in your presentation just now, you know, you mind sharing more about your personal experience as a Rotary Coordinator Senior Specialist, you know, working with the RI Regional Support Team. How is the experience working as an RI, you know, specialist?
Yeah, it's a wonderful experience. As I mentioned, I've been with the organization for 6 years. I have no plans to leave. It's a real privilege to walk into work every day and be able to see the incredible efforts that our volunteer members are making throughout the world, and to be a part of a small part of the support that is offered to those individuals. the group of volunteers that I work with, the Rotary coordinators, they are located all throughout the world. And so I get to hear really from the diversity of perspectives of our members, which I think enriches my understanding of Rotary, because to borrow a phrase, Rotary contains multitudes. It looks very different depending on what club you're talking to, where in the Rotary world you may be located. And I think that it's our ability to draw together those diverse perspectives and to turn that towards creative problem solving that lends us such power in the world. And beyond that, the group of volunteers that I work with, again, they are really focused on Rotary's membership. They're incredibly passionate volunteers. They give tirelessly of their time and energy. And they also, are doing many other things in Rotary. And that's something that I'm always truly impressed by, the many hats that our Rotary leaders, and I'm sure our Rotaract leaders, are wearing in the jobs they take up in the service that they're doing in their communities. So it's a real pleasure and privilege to work for this organization. And I also cannot say enough positive things about my colleagues and the tremendous expertise that they bring to their jobs as well.
Thank you for sharing.
Well, just now, Louis has shared that I think the best way to introduce the Rotary regional structure to the Rotaractors is to invite the guests from the RI to be the guest speaker in their events. But is there a possible way to explore in the future to invite the MDIO leaders to participate in the regional leaders training or summit? Is there? Yeah, so instead of bringing the guest speaker from regional structure to the Rotaractors, why not? Is there a possibility to bring the Rotaract leaders to the regional leaders training?
That's an interesting question. Are you asking about the training that the regional leaders go through to prepare for their role, or trainings that regional leaders organize in the field?
Both.
Both.
Yeah.
So the training for regional leaders happens in Evanston. It's typically only the incoming regional leaders who come to training, and it tends to be a 3-day event. Obviously, the past 2 years, we've been doing it virtually. So far, there have not been MDIO or Rotaract leaders involved in that event. I do know that, for example, the International Assembly has opened up a few spots to Rotaractors in past years. I'm not sure if any similar movement would be made for the regional leaders training. So that's a great question. And I guess, unfortunately, all I can say is we will have to see in the future if that's a decision that event's leadership decides to take. For trainings that the regional leaders organize, they are, depending on their training goals, more than welcome to invite Rotaract leaders to attend those. That would really be up to the regional leaders. Regional leaders, I will say, are often in close communication with their director or trustee, as well as with the district governors, since those partnerships are really vitally important. So many of these events are organized in a pretty collaborative process. But there's, as I mentioned before, I see examples of Rotary coordinators and other regional leaders who are hosting trainings that involve both district leadership from the Rotary side as well as district leadership from the Rotaract side. And there are Rotaractors who are serving on regional leader teams as well. So there's certainly nothing that would prevent that. And in fact, it is encouraged for regional leaders to be collaborating with leaders within Rotaract. And this is one of the, I would say, easy wins on the table, is to open up events and bring in perspectives and new voices from our Rotaract leaders.
Okay, thank you for your sharing, Ms. Nora. Is there any questions from the floor? I see that the Oliver, our PDR, Oliver has also shared a bit of his insight regarding to the regional structure. Yes. Yeah. And if there's no questions from the floor, then thank you again, Ms. Nora, and thank you, leaders, for enriching our this session. Allow us, Ms. Nora, to express our sincere gratitude through these certificates of appreciation presented by the Asia Pacific Rotaract MDIO to Ms. Nora Beamish-Lannon for imparting her knowledge and insight as a resource speaker on understanding Rotary regional structures during the Asia Pacific Rotaract Leaders Summit, given this 24th day of July 2021, and signed by Louis Bois-Durieux, our chair of the MDIO.
May we request Ms. Laura to smile for a picture with the certificate. This is how we do the presentation on Zoom.
Thank you so much. That's so kind. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you all. Again, I don't get to work with Rotaract audiences very much, and this has been a really great experience. I hope you enjoy the rest of your seminar.
The pleasure is ours.
Let's have a check if we have got the photos ready.
All right, thank you.